Bury Football Club, 134 years old, promoted to League One last season. But last month the Shakers were kicked out of the Football League after getting into financial difficulties, leaving fans devastated. The local Labour MP says the imbalance in football speaks to a wider imbalance in society.
We are a town in the shadow of Manchester. We're proudly part of Greater Manchester, but if you consider Bury in the shadow of Manchester, it is also in the shadow of Manchester clubs. And this imbalance within football speaks to the wider imbalance in society. And so I think it does pull at the heartstrings. There is a fight beyond simply keeping Bury Football Club alive here, and I think that's about Englishness, it's about identity, it's about the town's role in the wider economy, but it's also about livelihoods.
You've got to feel for the people of Bury. They've just gone through the heartbreak of seeing their club expelled from the Football League, and now they face the prospect of politicians descending here en masse to fight a general election campaign, because it's towns like Bury that will decide who ends up in number 10. Bury North is a classic two-way marginal. Labour's James Frith took the seat from the Conservatives in 2017, but with a 4,000 vote majority in a Brexit-supporting area, he faces a battle to keep it at the next election. What do you think about the thought of having an election?
I think we should have an election just because, it's been so long since we've seen that we're going to have a Brexit deal. There's been so many arguments. If they can't come to a conclusion, there should definitely be an election. It's needed.
And who would you be voting for?
Labour. Labour all the way.
The local MP is great.
Yeah, the local Labour MP. He won last time, didn't he?
Yeah, he won last time, and he really is good. But if you vote for him, you're getting Jeremy Corbyn.
And does that worry you then?
Oh, very.
Yeah.
It'd be a toss-up between Boris Johnson and Nigel Farage if he came into it.
So what is it that you like about Boris Johnson then?
I think he's trying his best to get us out of the EU. I think everybody else has been slagging the feet where he seems to be in there.
Saying that he'll do it.
He'll do it, and I do trust him.
I don't think an election is the right way of going. Let's just do one job at a time. Let's get the Brexit issue sorted out and let's see how we go.
And what do you think of Boris Johnson then? Do you like him or are you worried about him?
I liked him a lot ages ago, but now things are coming to the forefront, and to sack 21 MPs yesterday, I don't want us to turn into a dictatorial country.
The sacking of those 21 MPs for voting against the government makes Boris Johnson, like Bury's own Robert Peel, yet another Conservative Prime Minister to oversee a major split in his party. Alistair Burt is a former MP for Bury North and was one of the Conservatives stripped of the party whip this week. It's a decision he thinks will play badly in marginals like Bury.
I think moderate voters in Bury will be concerned. They don't like extremism, and they will feel something has gone wrong with a Conservative party in Parliament if it doesn't contain Kenneth Clarke and Nicholas Soames and a number of others. They'll worry about it, and if the reaction is anything like my emails have been since Tuesday, I've had a number of Conservative voters saying thank you very much for what you did and we're not going to vote Conservative again. So I think the party has got to take that seriously, and I think it would affect the party, my friends in Bury as well.
Facing losses in Scotland and the South East, if Boris Johnson is to have any chance of securing a majority at the next election, he will need to win seats like Bury.
Most of the marginal seats that will be contested next election are in towns, will be in towns. Of the 100 top marginals in 2017, 2/3, 3/4 were in towns. And that's been the same for about a decade. Different marginals appear, but they're still predominantly in town constituencies, and so that's why the major parties are focusing heavily on towns. So
we're certainly going to see Boris Johnson and Jeremy Corbyn making numerous trips to towns when that election's called.
Absolutely, yeah. If you look at the way that Labour's performed in the cities and the Conservatives perform in rural communities and constituencies, they're not in the bag, but they have big leads in both those places that they've held for a long time, stacked up big enough majorities for those places to be considered safe seats that they can hold, which leaves lots of town communities, small, medium-sized towns across the UK, which will be the focus of the campaign.
Do you think that some people feel forgotten in towns?
Yeah, it's an important point that we forget how people feel. We often talk about how people think and how people behave. Actually, how they feel invokes their behaviour, their political behaviour. So if they feel a place where they live is declining and they are pessimistic about its future, I personally believe that has an impact on who they would choose to vote for or whether they vote at all.
The government will bring forward proposals for an early election again tomorrow, but it's very unlikely to get the 2/3 of MPs needed to back it. The people of Bury North might have to wait a little longer before casting their votes.